Welcome to the Ag Update, Blue and Gold Edition, the podcast where agriculture meets truth, science, and zero sugarcoating. I'm a reporter and host, Tegan Self, and joining me today is the Queen of Chaos herself, our Vice President for the Central FFA chapter, Charlie Sosolic.
I promise to stay professional today. Okay, no I don't. But I will contribute valuable chaos and your occasional insight.
And that is exactly what this podcast is built on. Here's what you can expect from us. We take the biggest topics in agriculture, like wildlife, livestock, science, and the stories shaping rural America, and put it in a way that people understand, the way real people do.
And apparently my job is to make sure the science doesn't put people to sleep.
And today, for our very first official episode, we're jumping into the topic that has shaken the horse world, from everyday riders to million-dollar competitors. It has even made its way into the attention of the NFR. We're talking about EHV-1, the virus, the outbreak, the neurological cases, and why this year's situation has every vet clinic, horse owner, and competitor on edge. But first, we need to understand what we're dealing with.
Right, so Tegan, what exactly is EHV-1?
EHV-1 stands for equine herpesvirus 1. It's an incredibly common, virus. Most horses come across it in their lifetime. But however, it comes in three forms. There's the respiratory, which includes, coughing, fever, and nasal discharge. Then there's the reproductive, which affects mares and it gives them an abortion late in their term. And then there's the neurological one, known as EHM, the one that terrifies most horse owners.
And why does this one terrify horse owners?
Well, these are the symptoms for the neurological strand. Most horses have the symptoms of high-end weakness, stumbling, dog-sitting posture, inability to urinate, paralysis, and sometimes euthanasia. And here's what makes EHV-1 so powerful. It spreads through nasal droplets, and it can survive on surfaces like buckets, shared water, stalls, for days up to weeks, And a horse can shed that virus before they even show symptoms of it. Just imagine one infected horse at a big event, hundreds of horses.
And that's exactly what happened at Waco, Texas.
Yes, exactly. For those who don't know, in early November, hundreds of horses traveled to Waco, Texas for major barrel racing and rodeo events. The usual big shows, big money, big crowds. And everything seemed normal. Then, horses started getting fever, they started coughing, and then the first neurological strand of EHV-1 showed. Then, on November 19th, the Texas Animal Science Commission had confirmed that many horses were testing positive for EHV-1, with confirmed neurological cases at an all-time high. It was moving across the state and it was spreading fast.
Let's talk real numbers before
Okay.
we go deeper into how this outbreak has affected horse owners, vets, and the industry. Let's go into real confirmed data from the Equine Disease Communication Center as of early December 2025.
All right, everyone, this is where we need to slow down because this is the part of EHV-1 that, it gets twisted, oversimplified, and just straight up just misrepresented.
Here's the latest from the outbreak that started at the Women's Professional Rodeo Association World Finals and Elite Barrel Racing event in Waco, Texas this November.
All right, this is where we have to pay attention, class. These are the horses confirmed by PCR testing, meaning they definitely have tested positive for the virus. Texas has had 4 positive cases without neurological signs and 30 EHM positive cases with neurological signs, and 1 positive with no clinical symptoms, meaning they aren't sick, but they can still get others sick. Oklahoma has 3 with no neurological signs and 9 EHM neurological cases. Louisiana and Mexico have had a total of 3 EHM neurological cases each. South Dakota and Colorado has had 1 EHM neurological case each as well. Arizona has had 3 positives with some and some without neurological signs. And lastly, Washington has had 2 confirmed EHV-1 positive cases. These are just the officially confirmed cases that have been tied to the Waco event, just FYI.
And that's not just a few isolated sick horses. That's multiple states, dozens of confirmed positives, and disease spreading beyond the original event.
Yeah, and it didn't just, put a ripple into the horse world. It sent a literal shockwave.
Okay, the big question people keep arguing about is, if my horse is vaccinated, Are they protected from neurological EHV-1?
Here's the honest answer. No current EHV-1 vaccine is labeled to prevent specifically the neurological strand. However, that doesn't mean the vaccine isn't important. The vaccine can, reduce virus shedding. It can reduce the severity of respiratory signs. It can also help pregnant mares and slow the spread of the virus itself. However, the vaccine can't guarantee protection against the neurological strand. And as Dr. Stevens said in my interview with him, quote unquote, people will spend $60,000 on a horse, yet won't spend $20 on a vaccine. And he's right. However, vaccines don't make horses invincible.
It's like wearing a seatbelt. It doesn't make you crash-proof, but only a crazy person wouldn't do it.
Exactly. Before we move into the next section, we need to pause for a second.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've got to step out after this segment. Real life calling and all.
We'll allow it. But seriously, thank you for being here and helping, break down some of the heavy topics in a way that people can actually understand.
Of course. And honestly, if there's one thing I want people to remember from today, it's this. These issues aren't just ag problems. They affect everyone, whether you own livestock or not.
Exactly. Now, here's a word from our sponsor at Automatic Fire Protection. Update is sponsored by Automatic Fire Protection. Your business safety can't wait, and neither should your fire protection. At Automatic Fire Protection, we've been protecting lives and properties across Texas for decades, delivering complete fire sprinkler systems, alarms, clean agent suppression, and more. Whether you're in San Angelo, Dallas, San Antonio, or Houston, our locally owned experts bring the big company standards right to your door. From installation to inspection to maintenance to emergency response, we've got you covered. Don't leave your fire safety to chance. Call Automatic Fire Protection today at 325-651-90 for our San Angelo office or visit automaticfireprotection.com for a free quote. Because when it comes to keeping your people and property safe, prevention is protection. Automatic Fire Protection. Texas strong, safety first.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome back. With the outbreak just happening weeks before the National Finals Rodeo, the rodeo world held its breath. And, behind the scenes, the NFR have been, implementing biosecurity measures in order to help protect these horses from the EHV-1 virus. And it turned into essentially rodeo meets hospital protocol, reminding us all of COVID-19. And now that the National Finals Rodeo have wrapped up, officials never issued any statements suggesting they struggled to prevent an outbreak. However, before and during the event, NFR and PRCA officials explained the extra steps they took in order to prevent these horses getting this virus and to protect them. These precautions included limiting horse contact, expanding stall space, keeping competition horses on site for full event, and restricting accesses to the barns. Officials also confirmed that shared equipment was sanitized and horse health was closely monitored throughout the NFR. At this time, there are no confirmed EHV-1 cases connected to the event specifically, and the NFR has concluded without a reported outbreak, which is good. When people think rodeo, they picture 8 seconds, big lights, big checks, and big buckles. But what they don't see is what happens behind the scenes. They don't see the veterinarians tracking temperatures, they don't see the trainers disinfecting buckets, and they don't see competitors choosing not to haul these horses because of the outbreak risk. And that's really the big picture of this entire episode, is EHV-1 didn't just affect the barns. It affected the schedules, it affected travel decisions, warm-up routines, and even those who felt comfortable competing at the biggest rodeo in the world. Let's talk performance, starting with someone very close to home. Ty Harris from San Angelo, Texas, competed in the tie-down roping on the biggest stage in San Angelo. This year was especially meaningful for San Angelo. It wasn't just Ty that was competing in the NFR. His little brother Joel Harris and Dylan Hancock also competed in tie-down alongside them. There's something different when it comes to hometown cowboys. There's a lot of pressure, but there's also a lot of support. And regardless of final standings, representing San Angelo at such a big level at the NFR is so special, especially to the younger ag kids at home like me, watching. And Ty's interview gave an honest look at what the finals are actually like. He didn't sugarcoat anything, he openly said the NFR didn't go how he wanted it to go this year. But even though he came in prepared and was riding one of the most consistent horses out there, he talked a lot about timing and how hesitation and not trusting, your horse and the race itself can throw you off for multiple rounds. And that really just shows how the NFR isn't just about one run. It's 10 nights of pressure. Ty described it as feeling like you're going to war every night. And that mental grind is real. It's a struggle. At the same time, he did talk about motivation. Even with the rough week, he said, the only thing that matters is tomorrow. You wake up, you go to work, and you nod your head as prepared as possible. He also mentioned how his brother had his timing figured out every single night. And instead of, letting that get to him, it actually helped him mentally. Two brothers from the same hometown, practicing together, pushing each other, competing at that level, that says a lot about family and the Harris's work ethic. I have a lot of respect for it. That honesty also carries over to his amazing podcast, Let's Freaking Rodeo. What started on the road turned into a platform to share real stories, not just wins and highlights, which I think is very important. That's why people connect with it. He's not trying to make rodeo look perfect. He's showing the grind, he's showing the hard work, the dedication, the legacy, and the mental side of the sport itself. And speaking of the grind, that leads us to another major topic from the NFR this year, dirt. During barrel racing this year, the dirt itself became part of the story. There were several rounds where footing became a concern. In round 3, for example, Brittany Posey-Tanozzi's horse, Sir Epic, went down during her run, but was able to get back up, thankfully, and was later reported to be okay. In round 7 as well, Caitlin Scott's horse, Peanut Seed, fell at the first barrel, resulting in a no time for the round. Many other horses as well were just sliding around the barrels, just barely missing falling, which is very concerning. These incidents led to growing concerns from competitors and officials about the arena footing. And for those who don't know, footing issues can absolutely change the future performance of your horse. Riders aren't just worried about injuries. They're worried about a horse's confidence in the arena itself. Horses don't forget falling, okay? Confidence is lost in one run. Confidence lost in one run can impact stride length, turn shape, and how aggressively a horse approaches a barrel. And at this level, at the NFR level, where fractions of a second matters, that hesitation can be the difference between winning and falling out of contention. It's a big deal. And then there was the moment everyone debated. Stetson Wright was flagged for not marking out of the chute in round 6, okay? A call that cost him his overall average position he was holding at the time. And AI-assisted video for the replay clearly showed him marking out, which is the big controversy on whether or not he did mark out or not. This wasn't just a judgment call people disagreed with. It was one where technology showed something completely different than the ruling. It reopened major conversations about, the consistency in judging, the use of replays, and whether or not the sport itself is ready to evolve. And before we wrap up this episode, when it came time to crown champions, the pressure did not let up. Okay, and each event just showed how tight this year's NFR is. And for those who don't want to sit and watch 10 rounds of rodeo, let me just give you the final standings, okay? In bareback riding, the world champion was Rocker Steiner, earning his first gold buckle after finishing runner-up in 2024. His final ride scored a 90.5, and even without seeing the score, you knew it was special. He didn't win the round. That went to Cade Saunier, if I'm saying that correctly, with a 90.75, but Rocker did exactly what he needed to do and ended up, winning. We have Tucker Allen claiming his first world title in steer wrestling, finishing first in the overall average, known as the Little Man. And he did prove his size doesn't define, your execution. Jake Long and Andrew Ward won the round and the world in one of the most dramatic finishes of the finals for team roping. 3 teams entered the last round with a shot. Whoever won the world. And they delivered. Stratler Wright edged out his brother, Ryder Wright, just by $346 for the world championship title in the saddle bronc riding. Both scored 89.75 in the final round, but that razor-thin margin decided the title. We have Riley Webb, who claimed his third consecutive world championship in tie down at just 22 years old. But our San Angelo Cowboys rocked it in round 10, which belonged to Ty Harris with a blazing 6.7 second run, which is crazy. Joel Harris followed with an 8-point run, and Dylan Hancock placed second in the round. San Angelo showed up in a big way. Cassie Mowry entered the world title with her fastest finals run of 13.49 seconds. Crazy. In barrel racing. Aldrich finished her runner-up with the viral stud Adios Pantalones. And then lastly, bull riding, Stetson Rice secured his 10th world championship overall with this year's bull riding world title at just 26 years old. That includes 6 all-around titles, 3 bull riding titles, and 1 saddle bronc title. History in the making for Superman, who won the all-around title at the NFR this year. Here's the big picture here. Animal health affects competition schedules, travel decisions, economic outcomes, and animal welfare. Whether it's EHV-1, diseases in wildlife, or outbreaks in livestock, agriculture doesn't operate in silos, okay? In our next episode, we're shifting from the rodeo arena to Texas wildlife. I sit down with Dr. Cantu, a certified wildlife biologist and consultant with Texas Parks and Wildlife, to talk about chronic wasting disease and the diseases that truly keep wildlife managers up at night. Thank you for listening to the Ag Update Blue and Gold Edition. If you want real information without the noise, you're in the right place. Stay informed, stay involved, and as always, stay rooted in agriculture. See you next time.